Welcome to Football with Cheese. Hope everyone's having an amazing week. I got plenty more draft stuff coming. I got a Bill Polian and Ted Thompson video going over strategies on how you draft from two guys that were very successful doing it, and their strengths and their weaknesses, what went right, what went wrong. But first, make sure you are subscribed so you never miss a video, and hit the bell for notification. I'm doing this video because someone requested this, and I've been thinking about it for a few days. What is the problem with grading and analytics? It's become a huge part of the game, if you didn't know. Changed the entire way teams, fans, media look at football. And it's helped a lot, especially at certain positions. Other positions hasn't helped as much. But I'm going to go over the three problems with it. But first, let's just say it's a really good thing that analytics is a part of football now. A lot of times linebackers who just got a lot of tackles, more on that later, would just make the Pro Bowl. And maybe they were only good at run defense. Maybe they're a terrible blitzer. Maybe they're a liability in coverage. And guards, for example, maybe a guard is really good at run blocking. And you see the highlights of him creating a huge hole for the running back consistently on ESPN after the game. And you don't see when he gets burned in pass rush. When the quicker defensive tackles keep beating him and cause the pressure, maybe there's not a sack, so they don't show that highlight. And he's a huge liability. But he makes the Pro Bowl anyway because he's such a good run blocker, and that's what you see. So analytics is good in that aspect, but here are the three problems. The first problem is, especially with grading, the person that's analyzing, that's doing the grading or the analytics, may be wrong. For example, I wish I had this video. It would take me hours to find it because I don't remember their opponent. But there was a Packer game last year where two rookies were involved. Javon Bullard was playing slot corner. He was a second-round pick. And their fourth-round pick, Evan Williams, was playing deep safety. They were in a cover 3 look. So what cover 3 is, if you don't know, you have one deep safety in the middle, and both corners play back in a zone. So they're each in charge of a third of the field. Evan Williams was deep safety. He was in charge of the middle third of the field. The corners were in charge of the other third of the field on either side of Williams. And you bring Xavier McKinney, the other Packer safety, up in the box. So this formation does two things. It's good for run defense because you have an extra defender in the box. And it's good at preventing the big play because you have 3 guys dropping deep in zone. Where it is weak is over the middle of the field, or in the seam, really. In the seam between those 3 deep safeties and the underneath guys. Usually that's a vulnerable spot. Or just real quick, short passes to the outside. It's also vulnerable there. But you have to be on the same page. And Bullard on the play, like I said, he's playing slot corner, he's playing up, lets the receiver go down the seam because he thinks Evan Williams is going to help. And Evan Williams helps out on the other side of the field with the corner. And it's an easy touchdown. The guy's wide open. And when I went to look at the grades for that game, Javon Bullard had a horrible coverage grade and horrible overall grade. His coverage grade was like in the 40s. His overall grade was in the 50s. And Evan Williams had a grade in the 80s. And you can look and see who gave up how many touchdowns. And Javon Bullard was, I think, 2 touchdowns in that game were his fault, according to the grader. And I watched that play multiple times, and I think Bullard was correct for letting him go. I think Evan Williams should have picked him up. I could be wrong, but they were not on the same page. And Bullard's grade shouldn't have been that bad, and Evan Williams' grade shouldn't be that good, in my opinion. So that's the first problem, is you are only as good as who's analyzing each play. The second problem, and this is the most annoying, is when people use one specific grade for one specific game and then act like, oh, well, they're good at this. You know, there you go. For example, another Packer, Blake Martinez, he's been retired for several years now. He was a 4th-round pick. He was a starting middle linebacker for the Packers. He was a good player. He was a very good run defender, got a lot of tackles. He was an okay blitzer, maybe above average blitzer. He was a big liability in coverage. He was A decent athlete, not a great athlete, so he was bad at covering athletic running backs and tight ends. Tight ends with speed down the field. And there was a Packer writer who I do not like. He's just not very good, but he's a famous Packer writer. I'm not going to say his name. He's probably better than he used to be. He used to just, back then when Blake Martinez played with the Packers, he used to just post mostly political stuff. It's like, you're a Packer writer. It's like, your TDS is insane. Like, just, I don't want to hear about that. Post about the Packers. And this Packer writer is a Blake Martinez apologist. He swears Blake Martinez is like one of the best linebackers in the NFL, just always sung his praises. And after a game, Blake Martinez had a really good coverage grade. And he tweeted, "See, look at that coverage grade. I told you guys he was good in coverage." That's not exactly what he tweeted, but something like that. And I looked at who the running back and the tight end was. I think their starting running back was hurt, and the tight end had no speed to stretch the field. The team had a poor tight end group. So, of course, he had good coverage grade. He should. And at the end of the year, I looked at Blake Martinez's coverage grade by games. Only 3 games did he have a good coverage grade in. All of those, they did not have a good tight end that could stretch the field. So he should have a good coverage grade in those games. And he had some really poor ones when he went against the best tight ends. So anyone can just use any number on any game and just say, "Oh, no, look, they're good at that." That annoys me. The third problem, and this is a problem that I hope people are working on. If I was more of an engineer or good at computer stuff, maybe I'd try to build this. Anyone wants to try to build this with me maybe this summer, we can probably figure this out. Let me go back one sec. What PFF does, okay, they grade you on every play. They give you a plus or minus in every play or neutral. And then they add that up, and that's your grade for the play, and then they add that up for the whole season. That's your grade for the season. But what they don't do is grade you on the quality of your opponent. And that is the biggest problem I have with the grades. For example, if you're playing the Bengals and T. Higgins is hurt, let's just say T. Higgins is out with an injury, and you're playing Ja'Marr Chase is the other receiver, and your number one corner goes against Ja'Marr Chase and gets burned, ends up with a 53 grade for the game because Ja'Marr Chase is incredible. And the other guy, the other corner on the other side, doesn't have to go against T. Higgins. And the Bengals don't have any other receivers besides those two. They have a bunch of average, below average players. So he's going against a player that's just not very good, and he might have an 89 grade because that receiver can't separate from him. So the number 2 corner is going to have this amazing grade, and the number 1 corner has no chance because they're going against maybe the best receiver in the NFL. So you see that grade, you're like, "Oh, man, that corner had a bad game." Maybe he actually had a good game. He only gave up 2 touchdowns to Ja'Marr Chase. That's probably a good game. And maybe the number 2 corner didn't really have a good game. He just wasn't going against anyone worth a crap. So that is my biggest issue with grading. It'd be fun to partner with someone who not only you grade first, but then you grade afterwards, maybe in the off season or later in the week, based on that opponent. Probably in the off season, you see how good that player ends up being, and then you regrade based on the opponent. Or maybe T. Higgins, maybe he's banged up and he's clearly not 100% healthy. So the corner has a pretty good grade against him because he just doesn't have any speed. He can't stretch the field because he's injured. That should be taken into effect as well. So someone asked about this. I'm not anti-analytics. I like it. I love it, actually. But I just wanted to go over the problems with it. There's no perfect system, obviously. But I think grading based on who your opponent is and who you're against is something that should be done, not just grade you on each play. Because, like I said, number 2 corners will sometimes go against a lot worse players than the number 1 corner. So, anyway, make sure you subscribe. We're getting close to the draft, less than 2 weeks. Turn the bell for notification. Like this video. Bunch more draft stuff coming. Going to do a few more defensive profiles. I'm going to do a mock draft. And then next week's going to be all about wide receivers. So share this video with anyone who loves football so we can grow the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one.